let's see if we can do some English punctuations one more time. Before we do any examples, let's recap. So number one, we spoke of the full stop. So the full stop, I showed you how it looks like. It looks like this. And I said that full stop is used for statements. Statements are complete sentences that don't need a response. For example, you are late. That's a statement. Then the question mark is the opposite of this. The question mark looks like this. And the question mark works with questions. Questions are sentences that require you to give a response, unless we are talking about a rhetorical question, which in this case is not really that important to you. So question marks are used for questions, and then we come to commas. These ones look like this. So the comma is used for quite a number of things. Number one, when we have a listing. Number two, when we have clauses. I'll explain what these are with examples. So the comma, a listing, when you have clauses, and when you have question tags. I'll show you what these are. I'm not going to get rid of anything on this side of the board. Then the exclamation mark looks like this. It is used for anything shouted or exclaimed. So if there's any piece of writing that was said at a high voice, aloud, we use this exclamation mark to denote, to show that this part of the text was exclaimed. Then inverted commas, these ones look like this. These are used for direct speech. Direct speech, that is words that were said by someone and we are trying to report them exactly as they said them. So we use these inverted commas to show that this piece of writing, this text, this sentence was said by someone and we are reporting it as it was said word for word. Then the last one is the apostrophe. This one is much like the comma, only if the comma is here on the ground, the apostrophe is up there. My pupils call it the flying comma. So the apostrophe is used for quite a number of things. Number one is to denote possession, to show that something belongs to a particular person. I'll show you how that works. Then the other one is when we have contractions. By contractions, I mean when you have a big word which has been reduced to something small. For example, cannot can be contracted as can't. Now, when we make that contraction, we're supposed to put an apostrophe somewhere in there. So, full stop, question mark, comma, exclamation mark, inverted commas, and apostrophe. Let's see how they work with this example. So, these are questions I got from a 2020 paper. The first one is saying, what time do you go to school? Before we continue with this, I need you to pay attention to the first letter. It's always given a block letter. It's always a capital letter. Why? Because at this point, they know that you are old enough, you are wise enough to start with a capital letter. So that's why I don't talk about it. So the first one, what time do you go to school? Ask yourself, is this a clause? Is this a sentence? So, is this a statement? Is this a question? So this is a question. What time do you go to school? So we punctuate it with the question mark. Then number two, Livingstone, Kitwe, Chipata, and Lusaka are cities in Zambia. This is what I was talking about, a listing where they have mentioned a number of things. So here they have mentioned districts, there's Livingstone, Kitwe, Chipata. To separate these, we use the comma. So Livingstone, comma, Kitwe, comma. Then in between Chipata and Lusaka, we don't put anything because there's the and. Then at the end of the sentence, of course, we put the full stop or the period. Number three, among the items bought were beans, carpenter, fish, and cabbage. So this one has two parts. First of all, there's the clause, the first part. Among the items bought, what is a clause? It's a sentence, a half sentence that does not make complete sense by itself. So among the items bought is not a complete sentence. So among the items bought, comma, were beans, carpenter, fish, and cabbage. Then this part, beans, carpenter, fish, and cabbage, we have a listing there. So in between beans and carpenter, comma, then in between carpenter and fish, we'll put it here, comma, then in between fish and ant, continue. Then for the last part, we put a full stop. Like that. Then number 4. I will go to school early today, she said. So this I will go to school early today is something that was said by someone, and we are reporting what that someone said word for word, which is direct speech. So we're supposed to use these inverted commas. Now, before we can use the inverted commas, what we do is punctuate the sentence. I will go to school early today is a statement. We are supposed to use a full stop. But when inverted commas are involved, we don't use a full stop, but a comma, even for the statement, and then we close it off with the inverted commas. She said. And at the end, we have a full stop. Then number 5, the tree fell on Mrs. Mlenga's child. So here, the child belongs to who? Mrs. Mlenga. So to show that this child belongs to Mrs. Mlenga, we are going to use the apostrophe because it denotes possession. The child is possessed by Mrs. Mlenga. It belongs to Mrs. Mlenga. So here, between Mlenga and S, we put an apostrophe. The tree fell on Mrs. Mlenga's child. So that's how we can use, one way we can use the apostrophe and then full stop like that. So the second example is coming from the 2021 paper. For this one, the first question says, do you mind traveling a long distance? Do you mind traveling a long distance? This one, clearly we can see that is a question. So we put question mark, just like that it's done. Number 2, stand up, the captain addressed the soldier. This one doesn't say that what the captain said was exclaimed, was shouted, or was spoken aloud. But the fact that this is the captain we are talking about, if someone was to punctuate this with an exclamation mark, I would let them be, because most captains will shout out orders. So stand up were the words said by the captain, so we punctuate them like that, and then inverted commas because it's in direct speech. It's what the captain said. So stand up, the captain addressed the soldier, and full stop. Then number 3, even though the weather was stormy, Munjia felt excited about going to the party. For this one, even though the weather was stormy is a clause. So I put comma like that, then at the end, a full stop. For question 4, wait a minute, the nurse told me. So in this one, the nurse said something and we are getting what she said and or he said and putting it. Question 4. Wait a minute, the nurse told me. We are getting the words that were said by the nurse and putting them in inverted commas. So which words are those? Wait a minute. So what we do first of all is punctuate the clause with a comma and then close it off like that. So wait a minute, the nurse told me, and full stop. Then number 5, this car is theirs, isn't it? So for this part, isn't it is a question tag. question tags are phrases like isn't it, weren't you, where you, are you, John was stealing mangoes, mango titi. Those are question tags. This car is theirs, isn't it? So what do we do for question tags? First of all, we put a comma before the question tag. So this car is theirs, then here's the question tag, isn't it? Now, look at this. Isn't is a contraction of is not. We have removed the O and turned is not into isn't. To show that this is what was done, we put an apostrophe here to show that it was contracted. So this car is theirs, comma, isn't, apostrophe, then for it, this is a question like that. So these are the questions that you are going to meet. These are the punctuation marks that you are going to work with in the papers. Let's go to the next example. 2019. Puberty is a change from childhood to adulthood, said phase. So what words were said by phase? Puberty is a change from childhood to adulthood. So this is the part that was said. So we punctuate with a comma, then close it off with inverted commas like that. Said phase, full stop. Then number 2, who took my dress? Nelia asked. Of course, this is a question, and the same question is falling under direct speech. We are trying to repeat what Nelia had said. So first of all, we punctuate with a question mark because this is a question, who took my dress? If it's just a statement, we only put that, a comma. Then close it off like that. So who took my dress? Nelia asked. Stop. Then number 3, on your marks, get set, go. This one is one sentence, so you don't have to put full stops there. But as you can see, I am resting temporarily. For example, on your marks, get set, and then I say go. So these parts are supposed to be separated with a comma so that we can rest for a while. So on your marks, comma, get set, comma, go. This part is debatable. Others can just put a full stop. Others can go ahead and put an exclamation mark, because mostly when these words are said, the last part is mostly shouted. On your marks, get set, go. But if you just put a full stop, that would be fine too. Number 4, when mother was cooking in the kitchen, she asked the tender to give her salt, tomatoes, onions, and green pepper. So for this one, first thing first, there's a clause. When mother was cooking in the kitchen, comma, she asked the tender to give her salt. Now this part, there's a listing. Salt, tomatoes, onions. So salt, comma, tomatoes, comma, onions and green pepper. This part is already the ampersand and, so we don't have to put a comma there. Then 5, he did not account for the missing money, did he? So this one has did he, the question tag. So what do we do? The first thing is, before a question tag, you put a comma. Then for a question tag, check if there's any contraction. So did he is fine, no contraction. So we just put question mark like that. Let's attempt the last part now. Do you want to give us know where? Last example, 2018. Question 1. When did you report back? David asked. So the first part, direct speech. We are trying to say what David said, word for word. So we get this part and punctuate it. So ask yourself, is it a statement? When did you report back is not a statement. Is it a question? Yes. So we punctuate it first of all with a question mark, and then afterwards we close it off like that. So when did you report back? David asked. Full stop. Then number 2, Noctula's story is heartbreaking. So the story belongs to Noctula. As such, on Noctula we are going to add an S as it is and put an apostrophe there to show that the story belongs to Noctula. Like I explained, possession. So Noctula's story is heartbreaking, full stop, because this whole thing is just a statement. Number 3, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Uranus, are names of planets. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Uranus are names of planets. There's a listing there. So Mercury, comma, Venus, comma. Then in between Earth and Uranus, there's an and, so we do not have to put a comma there. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Uranus are names of planets. Full stop. Then number 4, please tell me a joke Kimote requested. So Kimote said something. So to report it word for word, we use the direct speech or the inverted commas. So please tell me a joke is just a statement. So comma, and close it off like that. Please tell me a joke Kimote requested, and at the end, full stop. Number 5, Kezia, mother said angrily, it will not help if you lose your temper. So mother said, first of all, she said Kezia. So this depends. They are saying angrily. She's most likely shouting. So we can say that, and then we put the inverted commas, because mother is the one who said Kezia, like that. But if you only put a comma here with the idea that mother did not shout, that would also be fine. So Kezia, mother said angrily, then here, comma, because this part, it will not help if you lose your temper, is also something that mother said. And in this situation, the full stop can work because it's the last part of the sentence. So Kezia, mother said angrily, comma, it will not help if you lose your temper. So if you pay attention, all the examples I've talked about are involving the full stop, the question mark, the comma, talking about the listing, the clause, question tags, the exclamation mark, inverted commas, and apostrophe. If you know these questions will be your call.